very proud of having been the first person who succeeded to bring, for a very informal, I would say nearly secret meeting, all the conflict parties in Northern Ireland together over 20 years ago. When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more, half of this cabinet, are actually young global leaders of the world economy.
It's my own desire. It's my own remorse. Help me to decide. Help me make the most of freedom and of pleasure. Nothing ever lasts forever. Everybody wants to go.
Of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say, we need to go green as fast as we need to start, investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
June 2016, we had the referendum, and that expressed the will of the people, but the will of the people isn't something fixed or unchangeable. If the circumstances change, the will can change, the views can change. We've got the right to rethink. It's not that we have to rethink, but we've got the right to rethink if we want to. So when we see this new relationship, and I think the new relationship will be one in which Britain is either trying to keep very close to Europe, in which case we'll have to obey Europe's rules, but we'll have lost our seat at the table of decision-making, or alternatively, it'll be very far from Europe, in which case the damage to Britain economically will be quite significant. I think when people see this new relationship, they're going to ask themselves again the question, well, is this really worth it? In many ways, Europe's become a kind of lightning rod for a whole lot of anxieties and concerns that people have. How people's worry, which is very real, that they've lost control over their own lives, lost it culturally through forces of immigration, lost it economically through forces of globalization, and Brexit is merely part of that movement in the West that's a big reaction against this process of globalization.
Never needed one headline while leaving. Everybody wants to.
Well, hello and welcome to another Restore Live. Restore UK Live going out on a Wednesday evening, going out to the Restore UK channel. That's on Facebook, also to the British Unionist People's Voice. And from those channels, what you can do is that you can actually share this screen. You can share this screen to your nearest and dearest, to your own Facebook pages, to other groups, to other pages on Facebook. Also, what I would like to do, and the numbers they're climbing quite highly already, and I expected low numbers this evening, and for reasons being that I mean the weather's good, and some people are out and about, whether they're walking or doing whatever. The summer doesn't tend to do too well on these shows, but however, this evening is of good numbers, and I would like to also ask people, if you don't mind, to tag people into the live chat. If you would like to tag the names of people who you think that might be wanting to see this screen. Now, this evening, I'm talking about a subject that over the years, many people has said to me, try not to go there, try not to mention the unmentionable, and that is globalization. But however, I mean, I've persisted throughout because, I believe that if you're going to sort out a problem, what you have to do is that you have to understand where that problem arises, where that problem is being pushed into place. Really, what you need to do is that you need to, there's a cause and there's an effect. And within British Unionism, right around the United Kingdom, too many people are I'm going to say it is designed this way, but too many people are continuously chasing the effect and trying to rectify the effect whenever that they should be identifying the root cause, and they should be going straight to the root of the problem and trying to cure that. Now, a long time ago, as a young man, I have identified the root cause of our problems. And today in 2022, in March of 2022, the people that are pushing the problems into place, well, today they're not even, they're just blatant now, and they're not hiding what they're doing. So whilst they can talk about it, well then, so can we. Now, there are many people from within our community that again has said, stick to doing the things that people know here. But let's, this evening, let's all go on a journey. Let's try to understand who that it is that is, there's a cultural war. And that cultural war comes in very many different forms. And in fact, as many forms as that you can think of, and then some, and think in ways that you wouldn't even believe in how that this cultural war is being waged. And, if you are prepared to scratch the surface, what you will do is that you'll begin to understand that how deep this is ingrained within our society already, and how much that our own politicians would actually know, but they're really not telling you. And they're not telling you because that there are, and we've explored this a few times on this channel and on weeks gone by, is that, they're governed by the so-called quote-unquote experts who are put into place, who lays out the land in terms of what it is that they have to support, when it is they have to support it, and how it is that they have to support it. And your politicians, believe it or not, although that you elect them into place to serve and protect you, well, you see, they are restricted. And I chose that word very, very carefully, but they are restricted in how much that they can do in order to serve and protect you. So what we're going to do this evening in the good old-fashioned Restore UK ways, what we're going to do is that we're going to take a brief look at the reasons why that your politicians, well, they're not prepared to put their heads above the parapet. They're not prepared to get up off their knees, and they're not prepared to mount a meaningful, proactive fight back in a way that would defend, protect and enhance British Unionists and those that call themselves Unionists here in Northern Ireland. Now, let's just take a look at a few things. If you were here early enough, and I see the numbers have went up very, very high as we've started to speak, but if you were here early enough, you would have noticed the song. And you know, that song, as normal, it was a cover version, and we would choose these songs specifically to really depict the events that we're broadcasting. And this evening, cultural war. I mean, who's funding the effort against you? Who's funding the cultural war against you? And that really is what we need to know and need to understand if we're ever going to have a chance of turning this around. Now, I've always said, and I'm going to make things clear again, is that, you know, I'm on record from 2019, October 2019 specifically, on a platform in an Orange Hall in Newton Ards, whenever that what we were trying to do is that we were rallying for the union. We were rallying to get the DUP elected before the last general election. And, you know, we formed and we organized meetings all around this country. Myself and some of the people here in the background were involved at an organization level, putting these meetings together in places like the Ulster Hall, in places like, say, Newton Ards, and places like Fermanagh, so on and so forth, too many to mention around this country. And, you know, I'm on record as of having stood on a stage in Newton Ards and telling people what they didn't want to hear. And what they didn't want to hear is that we won't win this, that this is way, way too big for us. But you know something? We don't need to win this. We don't need to defeat this, because this defeats itself. And, you know, there's something more powerful than globalization, than airy-fairy, wishy-washy folk who don't believe in anything, that only believe in their pockets. In fact, what these people do is that these people, maybe they did have a passion for where they lived. Maybe they did have a passion for standing up for the land in which they were born. Maybe they had a passion for their national pride. Maybe they had a passion for their pride, their culture, their heritage, their history, their part in the United Kingdom. Maybe they had a passion for their Britishness at one time, but slowly but surely that passion has been replaced with, I'm going to say, glory, and chasing the glory, and looking after themselves and putting themselves in the position in where that career advancements would unfold in this new dispensation of globalization. And what you see right now before your very eyes is that you see that your politicians, one by one, by one, by one, or even we'll use the biblical term 2 by 2 by 2, because this is the rate at which it's happening. You see these people rolling over and dispensing with every single thing that they've ever believed in order that they get their feet under this global table, and in a way that they would be okay. What was it Arlene Foster said just a few years ago? Didn't she say that if there was a New Ireland, well, she would be away? She would be away in the knowledge that she knew that she was going to the House of Lords for services rendered, for the things that she did on British unionism here in Northern Ireland over the past few years. And I can name a few right now. One of the things that she did, and she done this along with Nigel Dodds, and this was to do with Theresa May's backstop deal. Where you see Arlene Foster and Nigel Dodds, they didn't, and the DUP, they didn't agree with this deal on a Tuesday. And by Thursday, they had turned a blind eye to allow this to be floated, and in a way that, you know, that it was there. It was the template for what it was that Boris Johnson done in later times. And what he said was he had an oven-ready deal in the backstop with a few tweaks. And here we are in March of 2022 with a constitutional changing protocol having been put in place, all because that your British unionist leaders, well, see, they had to weigh up whether their career was more important than the people of Northern Ireland and the constitutional position of Northern Ireland from within the United Kingdom. So what was it that Arlene Foster had chosen in the knowledge that she was going to get? And didn't Nigel Dodds get exactly the same? You see, they rolled over. They give the wink and the nudge to the border in the North Channel, the border in the Irish Sea, by turning a blind eye and allowing Theresa May to proceed, and in a way that whenever that she was deposed, well, Boris Johnson picked up the same template and he moved on and he created this constitutional changing Northern Ireland protocol. Where did they end up? They ended up, both of them, in the House of Lords. Not long after, there was a confidence and supply arrangement. A confidence and supply arrangement in where the DUP, what they did was that they robbed the British government blind. Some would say that the deal was worth somewhere in the region of, was it 1.5 billion over time? You know, when they had the chance to secure the constitutional position of Northern Ireland from within the United Kingdom, what did they choose? They chose what you and I have seen time and time again, whenever they get it wrong, is that they roll out their lackeys onto social media and they suggest that, well, the DUP delivered. This was DUP delivery. This was a DUP delivery for the entire people of Northern Ireland. Well, how did that work out whenever that the DUP brought money back for Casement Park? The DUP brought money back for Irish language. The DUP brought money back for, what was it? An IRA Language Act, in where that the IRA, the Sinn Féin people, well, they did put in place their nation building strategy, in which they said, in which Fianna Walsh said that they want to green Northern Ireland street by street using the Irish language. And what was their payoff for what it was that they did in Northern Ireland? Well, Arlene Foster and Nigel Dodds, well, they are in the House of Lords as we speak. Now, there were other people involved in that deal. Let's not forget that there were other people with their fingerprints all over that deal. Who signed the confidence and supply arrangement? Wasn't it Jeffrey Donaldson? Wasn't he the man that actually put his signature on that bit of paper, seeking a constitutional, seeking a confidence and supply arrangement in where that they extracted was it 1.5 billion, or what was suggested to be as much as 1.5 billion from the British Exchequer. And I believe, people, from the bottom of my heart, and I've talked to many people in this, and I believe that that was the point in where that the gloves were off, and the Conservative Party, well, if the DUP were to treat them in that way in their hour of need, well, is it any wonder that we've ended up with the rough end of the stick in terms of what happened throughout this entire Brexit shenanigans as it has unfolded? So before that we move on, and before that we go on talking about what we're here to talk about, and before that we actually scratch the surface and fully understand who that is waging a cultural war, and that cultural war of which I speak, it isn't coming from the enemies of Ulster, the enemies of the United Kingdom, namely the Republican movement. Those people aren't capable of waging war if it wasn't for Irish America on their side, if it wasn't for the enhancements and the advancements and the turn a blind eye approach with reference to the British security services. Because let's remember, those people, according to naval intelligence, if you had been reading things as they were coming through, you see, those people were infiltrated. What did the head of naval intelligence say? He said that we had them on the ropes. We had informers absolutely everywhere. Why was it that Tony Blair let these people off the ropes? Well, tonight, people, what we're going to do is that we're going to explore the exact reasons as to why one Tony Blair may have let these people off the ropes whenever they were finished. And I'll say that again, whenever they were absolutely and utterly finished. So what we're going to do, people, is that we're going to play a couple of videos. We're going to play a couple of videos, and we're going to like to ask people to think, to listen to every word and to try to follow where it is that we're actually going. We're doing this for a reason, and we're doing this because I believe that people need to know, because there are people from within our own community right now There are people in political leadership right now. There are people in community leadership right now who know the story, who know the score, who are turning a blind eye, who are pretending to do one thing, whilst that they are doing the complete opposite. And those people, they have no shame. They're looking after themselves. They are looking after the age-old target of anyone that seeks to purchase people by way of comprador purchasing, comprador class. Now, if you don't know what that means, go and look it up in a dictionary and understand what a comprador is and understand who the comprador class actually are. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by playing a few videos, because what we have to do is that we have to set out a chain of events. We have to show in a conclusive way as to who's involved in this, as to who's turning a blind eye, as to the depths in which that it has infested the United Kingdom and its politics and its social life and its business and its public services, and the depths to which that it actually pulls the levers and controls our politicians, controls our public servants, controls our police force, controls our courts in a puppet master-like fashion. Let's start off by playing these videos. Now, before that we do, I'm going to get this out of the road, and this is more important than ever. This is really more important than ever at any time in our past here on Restore UK. I'm going to pop up a PayPal link. There's the PayPal link. You know the drill. It's on Restore UK. It's on the British Unionist People's Voice, and it's also on Restore UK, and that is on the YouTube channel. And from the live chat on each of those channels, and also in the description line, you will find that PayPal link. And if you can put anything, no matter how small, into that PayPal link, you will be helping us to scratch these services and to spend the time and the effort and do the traveling in order to find out what it is that we constantly bring you here every week on Restore UK, in a way that no one else actually is. And I guess in a way that anyone else, well, there's not very many people knowing the danger in which we are, the dangerous position that we're putting ourselves in. Well, there's not very many people would actually go there. There are people that choose to turn a blind eye, because we are exposing deep and dangerous and dark forces here on Restore UK. I mean, we are exposing things that let's just say that well, these people are capable of making politicians and breaking politicians. These people are capable of making news and media journalists and breaking news and media journalists. These people, well, I won't go any further than that, but they're capable of a lot. And we have absolutely no doubt on who these people are. And we're hoping to actually help you understand who that it is that it is pulling your politicians' strings. So there's the Restore PayPal link. If you can, please do. So here we go. We're going to start off by playing a video. Now, to understand this video, let's just play it. Let's take this down. Let's play the video, and then we'll keep coming back and we'll speak about it as we go. But, this is about Northern Ireland. I know that you're going to see some things to do with outside global forces. This is specifically about Northern Ireland, but the same story would apply in England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, France, Germany, wherever, right across the Western world. Who's pulling the puppet strings? Let's start off with video number 1.
like Angela Merkel and Bill Gates will check in from around the world, as well as Vladimir Putin, Prime Ministers of India, Japan, Spain, Greece, Israel, Singapore, Presidents of France, Korea, Argentina, South Africa, Secretary General of the United Nations, Director General of the World Health Organization, Governor of the Bank of England, Secretary General of Interpol. The agenda has been shaped by the pandemic and organized around the Great Reset. So I suppose when you talk about it being a conspiracy, it ain't a conspiracy if it's candidly spoken about and explicitly stated. That's not a conspiracy. That's a sort of an agenda. Markham White is one of the people that brought to our attention the phrase, "you will own nothing and you will be happy." My question is, if I don't own anything, then who does? Who controls the resources? Well, it seems like the most obvious answer is the very people who practically own everything now, i.e. members of the World Economic Forum. No conspiracy, just factual and well-stated intentions. Yeah, I'm a bit concerned. Well, Markham, I share your concerns and I share your diagnosis.
So the reason why that I wanted to play that video, and we used Russell Brand actually to say, and as opposed to me actually speaking over that, is I couldn't find the clip in which has been floating around for the past few years, is that, you know, right out of the World Economic Forum, there was a video which appeared, I think it was around 2017. And it says in 2030 or by 2030 that you'll own nothing. I'm going to paraphrase here, that your life would be an open book and you couldn't be happier. It talked about a time in where that you wouldn't be eating meat. It talked about a time in where that, I mean, let's just play that again and let's try to drill into this to understand it, because we're going to move on. And we're going to show a chain of events which takes you right through to this same World Economic Forum, having been in Northern Ireland slightly before the peace process would have occurred. And I mean, I reckon the clip that we've got is from around the 1997 timeframe, somewhere between 1994 and 1997. The World Economic Forum were here in Northern Ireland. And according to the man himself, Klaus Schwab, well, you see, he was responsible for bringing the leaders of the various groups here in Northern Ireland together. But let's just play this again. Let's understand about this 2030 timeframe about owning nothing. I mean, what does that mean? Does that mean that you'll have no property rights? Does that mean that you'll have, you know, you won't be able to own a car? Does that mean that you won't own any possessions? Does that mean that you'll literally own nothing? And the question is, and the question needs to be asked, well then, if we own nothing, who is it that actually owns everything? Is it the people that attend, the billionaires that attend this World Economic Forum? You know, and the great and the good, they attend there. Tony Blair attends there. There are so many people within governments that have been brought up, that have been nurtured, that have been groomed and put into place, according to their own words, by this same World Economic Forum. Leo Varadkar, for example, the Irish Prime Minister. Well, he's the Taoiseach right now. He used to be the Taoiseach. But let's remember that whenever in 2020, February of 2020, when the Irish general election had occurred, there was a deal was done. And because they formed a coalition government between Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil, and the deal that was done is that their term for the Irish Parliament is 5 years. And the deal which was done is that Leo Varadkar comes back after 2.5 years. Now, if I count forward from February of 2020, that's 2021, 2022, this is March, which is 2 years and 1 month. In 5 months' time, Leo Varadkar, yet again, will be the Taoiseach of Ireland. And not a lot of people have been focusing on that, but we haven't taken our eyes off it, because we understand that Leo Varadkar is being puppeted, being manipulated, him and his friend Simon Coveney, who's involved in other external organisations who don't work for the Irish people, who work for the globalists per se. And this isn't hid. I mean, this is an open book that we're speaking about. And whenever we hear Simon Coveney today, whenever the British government had suggested that what they were going to do is that anybody that had to come from, say, Ireland through into Northern Ireland, if they weren't actually Irish, well, they would have to go through customs checks per se, or immigration check per se. We hear Simon Coveney actually stand out and say, oh, absolutely not. We'll have to have that argument. We'll have to have that fight. Is Ireland going to be used as a way in which that Northern Ireland would be absolutely consumed with uncontrolled, uncontrollable immigration? Is that open door going to be the way in which that if the UK do manage to secure their borders, which I don't think that they're going to do, by the way, but if they did manage to secure their borders, would Ireland be that open door by which that the common travel would permit people to come through Ireland and into the UK and actually consume them anyway? You see, these are the things that is happening before your very eyes. So what we've learned is that this World Economic Forum, they have people in place in different governments around the world. And some of the people that is attached and has been groomed and has been trained and has been nurtured and put into place by this World Economic Forum, well, you see, they are some of the most totalitarian governments that the world has ever seen. And would you believe it, that they are in Western world countries? They are in countries in where just a few short years ago, you and I and everyone else would have thought that these people had Western world values. These people, well, they're quick to tell you that they are what is known as liberal democracy. But whenever we scratch the surface and we see and we understand what it is that they're doing with their own people, well, these people, they would make Stalin look like a choir boy. They would make Hitler look like Mother Teresa, with some of the things that they're doing within their own countries and on their own people. And who is it that's funding our own events right now in Northern Ireland? Who is it that's funding them? These very totalitarian countries. And this we're going to show you as time goes on within this stream. So yet again, I'm going to ask for people to tag people into the live chat to again share this, because we're ready to go and we're ready to unleash and we're ready to show people just a part of what it is that we've been researching and what it is that we've learned over the days and weeks that we've been looking at this area. And, you know, I said to a good friend yesterday, you know, doing this type of research, I'm in despair. I'm really in despair. I do draw back to those words in October of 2019, whenever I stood on a stage in an Orange Hall in Newton Ards, and whenever I told people that we won't win this. But, you know, there is light at the end of every tunnel, and we don't have to win it, because these people, because they turn against their populations, because of what they're doing in their population, because they're saying one thing and they're doing the complete opposite, because they're pretending to be liberal democracies whenever they are totalitarian hellholes. Well, because they do this, ultimately what happens is that their own people turns against them. So they defeat themselves. We don't have to defeat this. This ends up defeating itself. So let's go on and let's try to understand what it is that I'm aiming at here. So we're going to start off with a short video clip. And I reckon the genesis or the time frame from where this video clip would have actually came from was around 1994 to 1997, just pre the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, which was around the Easter period of 1998. So let's just listen to someone that would make a Bond villain look out of place, or make the Bond villain look like an actor. Just have a look at this man and listen very carefully to what he says.
Northern Ireland was always close to my heart, and I'm very proud of having been the first person who succeeded to bring, for a very informal, I would say nearly secret meeting, all the conflict parties in Northern Ireland together over 20 years ago.
So I'm going to play that again, because that's worth listening to yet again. Now, this video could have been done 2017, and over 20 years ago, this video might have been done 2018. But this man is making a huge claim here. Klaus Schwab, we call this guy, he would be the face of the World Economic Forum. He's the man that has written the book, the book that would have been produced a few months after COVID. He called it the Great Reset. And I'm going to use this terminology, is that these people think that what you can do is that you never let a good crisis go to waste. And what you can do, and listen very carefully to this, is that you can create order out of chaos. Now remember those words. Klaus here, he thinks that you can create order out of chaos. And he is making a claim here when he said that he brought all the groupings that was involved in the conflict here in Northern Ireland, and he's responsible for bringing them together prior to the Northern Ireland, prior to the Belfast Agreement. So listen again to what Klaus has to say, and then we'll move on.
For this reason, Northern Ireland was always close to my heart, and I'm very proud of having been the first person who succeeded to bring, for a very informal, I would say nearly secret meeting, all the conflict parties in Northern Ireland together over 20 years ago.
So here we have Klaus admitting that what he did, or claiming what he did, was he brought all the parties of the conflict together for an informal, secret meeting prior to the Belfast Agreement being signed. And he said that he was the first to actually do it. So anyway, what we want for you to understand is cultural war. Who's funding the war against you? Who's funding this cultural war? Who are the players, the puppets, the puppet masters within this cultural war? From what angle is this cultural war being waged? Is it being waged from every angle? Well, I believe that it actually is, and they've created new angles in which that what they can do is that they can incrementally remove everything that you've ever believed. And I wonder that are the people that are dealing with the likes of Klaus here, are the people that are being sucked into place, and we're going to show you how this is happening, but are these people that are being sucked into place by the lure of fame, by the lure of standing on the world stage, by the lure of getting themselves on the television, by the lure of taking social media selfies whilst they're in these great parliaments, by the lure of, well, from within their community. Does it make them famous? Is that what they think? Are they exchanging what should be passion? Are they exchanging that for glory, but for self-centered glory? Is this what they're swapping the lure of fame for, or the passion that they should have? Is this what they're swapping the passion for in return for some sort of glory? I've seen this before. And and whenever you've seen it before, it is very, very easy to recognize whenever it is that you see it again. Now, let's just tell you a brief story before that we move on. You see, an age-old tactic of an aggressor or a comprador. Let me explain what a comprador is. You see, totalitarian regimes, they have taken a Marxist theory. And comprador, this term comprador, from what I understand, is a Portuguese word. And what comprador means is purchaser. And you see, the purchaser would purchase into place, in political terms, comprador class. Now, if you were a government, let's take, for example, the SNP right now, just for talk's sake. If you were the SNP, what you would do is that you would have comprador who are the purchasers of people on your behalf. And what you would do is that you would use those comprador to purchase into place outer circles of comprador class. And the theory goes that the comprador class, because that they are receiving so much money, you see, they have vested interest in ensuring that this gravy train continues. And those outer circles, well, they form protection barriers to stop people from getting at you. Now, how that this was explained to me from a man that was in the engine room of the Labour Party, and I can tell you who that man was. That man was George Galloway. We had him on Restore one evening to do with Restore Scotland, and I know not a lot of people like George Galloway. But you know something, whenever you are being told how the inner workings of things work, well, George Galloway was worth his weight in gold whenever he explained to me how that it is that the Labour Party were doing things whenever he was in the engine room, how that it is that the SNP are doing things, how that it is that this Marxist theory is used to provide an outer circle or outer circles of protection to the people that are doling out the money. You see, the Scottish government right now, well, they are giving contracts to all types of publications, you know, all types of, you know, whether it be, you know, some of the papers, some of the publications, the journalists. It's hard to say it. It's not the newspapers nowadays, you know, it's the online publications, as we'll use that term. And how that it is that they're actually paying for advertising to do with coronavirus and so on and so forth through the media. How that it is that they are bankrolling the media and the schools of journalism and the publications and the papers which do exist. You see, the governments are now bankrolling those people, and they have become, in a way, they have become comprador class as attack dogs to attack anything that would attack the people, the totalitarian who is in place. So that's just a quick lesson on how that it is that the comprador are the people that is put in place by the totalitarian to purchase outer circles of people to form a protective barrier around a given government or a given system or a given would-be totalitarian. That's how it works. Now, here in Northern Ireland, it's no different. It is absolutely no different because there is money coming from everywhere. I mean, I said to a friend just a few weeks ago, there's an election coming up and the place is awash with money. There is all sorts of initiatives being offered. There is all sorts of things happening. Now, I'm not saying that youth don't need money. I'm not saying that because of years of underinvestment in Northern Ireland, that people don't deserve money, that people don't deserve to have training, that people don't deserve to be educated, that people don't deserve to be taught on how to protect themselves. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that isn't it funny that these people were neglected up until that an election yet again is looming? Or if there's a special event on, all of a sudden there is thousands pumped into this place, and all of a sudden there are all sorts of community groups offering all sorts of initiatives, bringing all sorts of people in where that, well, I wonder what the agenda actually is. I wonder what it is that they have to teach people. I mean, do they have to teach people that it's okay to be Jack today and Jill tomorrow? Is it okay to suggest to a child that you're a racist and you don't even know it? Is it okay to tell a child or to tell anyone that there's 101 different genders, and if you don't believe it, you're a racist misogynist, you're an enemy of society? Is this the type of thing that's being taught as a result of the money that is being given? Is there specifications and stipulations laid down in where that some of these things have to be at least agreed to or given the nod and given the wink? Let me tell you of a story from a few years ago. I know of a community group that was getting funding, and the funding after a year, it dried up. And these people were decent, ordinary people, just like ourselves. And then someone came along and asked them, well, if you support this, you can get more funding. And this is how I explain this, and I've said this before, and I'm sure that if the one person from the Shankill Road took me up on this, and I said to that person and to those people that you people don't even know the line anymore. There was the line that you were taken across the line, you were taken beyond the line, you were taken beyond the line again, and now you don't even know where the line is from where you came. Now, I'm not talking about every single person on the Shankill Road here. I'm talking about specific people who, well, one person, and you know who you are, because you said to me, I can't believe what I'm hearing. Well, I can't believe what it is that you are doing, because you have been taken across the line, and you continue to be taking across this line further and further and further and further, and you don't even know where the line is anymore. Have you changed? Have you swapped what should be passion in return for some sort of glory? Is that what has happened? Because that's what it looks like to me. What matters more? The people who have lost their lives, the people who have spilt their blood, the security forces that has stood up in defense of the people of this country. Does it matter if those people are trampled into the ground? Does it matter if their memories are lost and gone forever? Does it matter if their memories are a thing of the past? I mean, is this where we're headed with all of this? Because if it is, I can tell you that I won't be going. And I know that a lot of people that are attached to our community, well, they won't be going either, will they? Let's move on for a minute. Now that we understand that there's lots of money coming into Northern Ireland, and I'm going to show you people, I'm going to show you where some of that money is coming from. And I'm going to make a claim right now that the recent batch of money in March 2022 is coming from some of the most totalitarian countries in the Western Hemisphere. And yet some people are happy to take that money. But where does that money lead? Where will that money lead? Where do these people expect to take you? They expect to take you down a road in where they have travelled. One of these countries that are putting some money into here is Canada. Now let's just listen to I don't know why he's a Prime Minister or not, but he's certainly the Premier in Canada, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, who the World Economic Forum say is one of their proteges, who the World Economic Forum say, well, let's just listen to a video or two and we'll understand what it is that I'm saying here. Sorry, people. That's actually the wrong video. I haven't got that video. Bear with me for a second. I'm going to play something that I played at the start. And what I want you to do is I want you to focus on Justin Trudeau. I want you to focus and listen to his words when he said that he admires China, communist China, because of their totalitarianism, because of the way it is that they treat their people, because they have their people under such a grip that what they can do is that they can manage to move society in whatever way that they want, and they can do that in the most agile way that is possible. Listen to this video, then we're going to come back and we're going to talk some more.
I'm very proud of having been the first person who succeeded to bring, for a very informal, I would say nearly secret meeting, all the conflict parties in Northern Ireland together over 20 years ago. When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young global leaders of the world.
It's my own desire. It's my own remorse. Help me to decide. Help me make the most of freedom and of pleasure. Nothing ever lasts forever. Everybody wants to go.
Of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as we need to start investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
So to take that down, that's all we need to hear. We need to hear what Trudeau had to say. We need to hear that he admires China because they can turn their economy around in a dime because of their totalitarianism, because of the grip that they actually have on their people. That doesn't stop there, people. It doesn't stop there. And as I said, cultural war. Who's funding our demise? Who's putting the money in? Who is filling these young people's heads full of sweetie mice, placing them on pedestals, telling them they're something special, telling them that they are young global leaders, allowing them to traipse round grand buildings in other countries attached with globalization. And they think that they are the community leaders of the future. These kids haven't a clue about what they're doing. These people, these kids, these children are being used by more sinister men who have something else in mind. I mean, they want to remove everything that these young kids think that they believe in. They want to destroy your nationality. They want to destroy the United Kingdom. They want to destroy your history, your heritage, your culture. Unless you haven't noticed, Britishness isn't allowed in Northern Ireland anymore. Your veterans, whilst IRA terrorists, whilst they have immunity from prosecution, well, there are loyalists that are going to court because of the Republican agitations. There are UDR soldiers that will be in court because of Republican agitations. There will be RUC men. There will be soldiers, British soldiers, everyone who dared stand up against this evil killing machine that was the IRA, well, the IRA are permitted to agitate in a way that well, everyone else ends up in court. And Tony Blair gave them letters of pardon, Queen's Comfort letters. If you're attached to the Sinn Féin conglomerate linked to Gerry Adams right now, you will never see a courtroom. Why? Because we have shown time and time again, and in a way that well, what did Tony Blair say whenever Rita O'Hare turned up in an office funded by the CIA in Washington? CIA put $780 million into that office in Washington, and there to greet Rita O'Hare, someone who was wanted by the British government for the things that she had done. The security forces wanted Rita O'Hare. She was in exile, and she turned up, and she was one of the main players in this office funded by the CIA in Washington. You see, what you've got to realize, and I'm specifically talking to these people that are taking this money, what you've got to realize is that Irish-American money, Irish-American strategy, Irish-American foreign policy, American foreign policy, it does not favour you because you're not worth any vote to them. Let me tell you another story from the past. And this is for these whippersnappers who think that they are the new global leaders, the new global shapers, the new future of leadership from within our communities. Let me tell you a short story. You see, this will expose the hypocrisy of American administration. Now, I say administration in the singular because traditionally there have been, well, it's not exclusively what I'm going to say, but in my time of life, 53 years on this planet, and I have seen successive American administrations putting their nose into Northern Ireland. And I'm going to take you back to a time in 1994, 1993, 94, 95, 96, 97, before the Belfast Agreement, before that the Belfast Agreement that was a disguise was actually put into place, before that the Americans brokered that deal, before that the Americans insisted, even though the IRA had landed a bomb in February of 1996, they put a bomb in the Canary Wharf, the Docklands in London, causing £500 million worth of damage. And they done that solely to extract concessions from the British government, to which they got. Let me tell you about Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton was at Mackey's factory in late November of 1995. He later that day stood on the stage at Belfast City Hall. He was preaching to British Unionists that we had to put the past behind us. We had to, remove the bitterness and the hatred of the past, and we had to embrace those that would have murdered our nearest and dearest in that past. And, there was a real desire for peace in Northern Ireland. In fact, things like the Shankill bomb in October of 1993 made a man like me stand and look at that Shankill bomb and think that this has to stop, that this can't go on any longer, that this needs to stop because people are recognizing no boundaries on the depths that they're prepared to stoop on the depths that they're prepared to stoop to get one over in the other community. And I thought at that time that this has to stop. It has to stop. It should stop. But you see, there were opportunists that were in the background, and they were manipulating things for their own ends. And let me tell you about the American administration that was attached to Bill Clinton at that time, and they haven't changed to this very day. Well, you see, whilst he stood here and whilst he insisted that Protestants, Unionists and Loyalists should put the past behind him, what he did was he went back to America. There was a bomb known as the Oklahoma bomb. There was one man who was a disgruntled veteran in America who had set a bomb, killing 140 people and maiming many other people, injuring plenty of others. And Bill Clinton, when he got back into America, he said that we will leave no stone unturned. We will find this terrorist, and what we will do is we will make an example of him. This is me paraphrasing. They found Timothy McVeigh. Go do your history. And what did they do? They executed Timothy McVeigh by lethal injection. Now, to me, people, that is hypocrisy in its finest. And I can remember as a young man of 24 involved in politics. And I remember actually writing a piece on the hypocrisy of the American administration. Whenever everyone else from within our community were cozying up to them, we're looking up to them, we're happy to go and stand in Washington and make themselves feel important. You know, I remember penning this article, and this article went, when is a terrorist act an act of terrorism? Well, you see, when it's in America, it's an act of terrorism. But when it's on the Shankill, when it's on the Shankill Road, when it's the Shankill bomb, it's not an act of terrorism. It is something that happened, which was unfortunate, in where that we have to take it on the chin, and we have to put our past behind us, and we have to embrace the people that actually done that. You know, this is the hypocrisy of these people. And then I'll talk about another man, one John Brewer, who was an interlocutor between the Loyalists and the IRA, bringing these people together from within the George Mitchell Institute for Global Peace. And, you know, he would have said that you've got to look past the fact that Jerry Kelly is a bomber, the fact that Jerry Kelly was involved in an operation which seen a prison officer dead in the maze whilst he was escaping, the fact that Jerry Kelly and his pals were running around this country glorifying in this operation which caused and resulted in that murder, adding insult to the injury of the man's family. You see, John Brewer from the George Mitchell Institute for Global Peace, who was attached to Bill Clinton, who was attached to Tony Blair, who was attached to Alistair Campbell, who was attached to Peter Robinson, from what I know, was invited into that club. If I'm wrong, come and challenge me, Peter. But you see, these people are telling you that Jerry Kelly is a human being, and you've got to look beyond and see that he's not a bomber, whilst Jerry Kelly would continue to add insult to the injury in which you have already been levied throughout those years. You see, peace at any price, is it worth it? You see, I believe from the bottom of my heart that if you're going to move forward with anything, you only do so if the field is level, if there's a level playing field, if there is a process in where that you get no winners, you get no losers, you don't have any hierarchy of rights, and you most certainly do not have a process which would seek to purchase into place in true comprador fashion, the comprador class, which would protect the institutions here in Northern Ireland that so many people have witnessed that they do not work for them. The Belfast Agreement, what was unionists promised from that? They were promised the principle of consent. What right-minded unionists today in 2022 can say that that principle of consent works for them? That there was to be no constitutional change in Northern Ireland without a referendum being put to the people? And albeit even though that I believe whoever negotiated that needs their heads looked at, well, it's what we got. And now what we found is it doesn't work for us. And here are the same swindlers, the same con merchants, sucking people in from our community, giving them money, telling them they have to support that, putting them on the world stage and telling them that they are very important people and they are the future, they are the leaders of the future, whenever it's clear to be seen by anyone from the outside eye looking in. It's clear to be seen that, well, this we have seen before. And how did that work out for our community? It didn't work out very well. Sometimes some things have to be said. Sometimes some things is worth pointing out. Sometimes some corruption is worth exposing. Let's go on. Let's show you some more. We've spoken for, albeit probably somewhere in the region of just over an hour now. Now, we're going to go on for just another little bit of time, but I am going to go to the live chat. I want you to leave your messages in the live chat. I want you to tell these people how that you feel. I want these people to understand that there's a huge difference between what should be in place, that is passion, and this thing that so many are seeking called glory. Let me tell you another brief story before that we move on and we expose some more. I'll take a quick drink first. Who remembers the Paisley era? Who remembers that strong leader that was Ian Paisley? Who remembers that man that no matter what happened in Northern Ireland, well, as I said before, there would have been a price to pay for any aggression against the British Unionists, the Unionist people here in Northern Ireland. There would have been a price to pay in the days of Paisley. Now, a lot of people, they have their gripes against Paisley, but the reality was that the man, no matter what way you look at it, was a leader capable of rallying a crowd. How was it that Paisley was knocked off his perch? How was it that Paisley was softened up? You see, this is an age-old way in which you see people, outside forces, looking to direct or redirect where it is that people would be going. You see, there's a way in which these things can be done. And I believe whenever I examine the Paisley story, there was one significant thing that happened, and after which I seen Ian Paisley soften up like putty, and I seen him roll over, unlike the man that we knew from the past. And that thing was whenever Eileen Paisley was offered Lady Paisley, and she was offered a title. And around that time, there was other people from within the DUP were also getting titles. And prior to that, at the signing of the Good Friday Agreement, well, wasn't there people from the Trimble administration that got titles? And then there's this age-old saying, lead this army off the field. We'll increase your land, we'll increase your wealth, and we'll give you titles. And this is the oldest trick in the book in terms of what it is that has happened here in the United Kingdom. And in days gone by, even before the United Kingdom existed, that this is how that the Parliament would have purchased into place their comprador class in different areas. Who's ever watched the film Braveheart, in where that there were these people known as the nobles? And they were being encouraged to lead the Scottish army off the field, and their land would have been increased. Their titles would have been increased. Their lands, their titles would have been increased. And whenever Lady Eileen became Lady Eileen, I seen the doc, the big lad, actually soften up. And was it that he knew that he was getting old? Was it that he knew that his time was almost done? When Lady Eileen Paisley was offered that pleasantry, that title, before you knew it, the big lad was with Martin McGuinness. Before you knew it, the Chuckle brothers were teeing and laughing and chuckling, to the point whereby that some DUPers thought that it was embarrassing. But did we get any better whenever one section of the DUP got rid of Ian Paisley for doing what he did, only to go and do exactly the same thing again? Haven't we seen that successively from within the DUP? People today, are there people from within community leadership that maybe have family members that they have earmarked, that the comprador have earmarked as the new leaders? the new community leaders, the new leaders of a people? Is there the potential for a legacy to be put in place? Well, we couldn't do it, but at least the people who are attached to us, our younger generations who have our family names, they can maybe do this type of thing. Is this the changing of passion for some sort of legacy, some sort of glory? Is this what's happening? There are too many people from within our community who have paid the ultimate sacrifice for standing up for Northern Ireland. I'm not saying that people have to fight physically, but what I'm asking for, what I'm pleading with people for, is that be very, very careful from where the money comes from that is putting into place the indoctrination of future generations. You know, turning a blind eye will not make a legacy any better. In fact, it'll be no legacy at all. It'll be as if that we'd never, ever, ever existed. All the efforts of all the people of all the past will have been in vain. Is that what you want? Is that what you want your legacy to be? Maybe we all need to have a rethink about where things are going. Have a rethink about where the money's coming from, which is paying for, and I said at the start and I'll say again, which is only bringing into line the years of underinvestment in so many areas from within British unionism. Are there those from within our political class, those in political leadership, are they happy to use this money as a carrot to coax people in, just like a piece of bread? You know, as in the words of that football chant, as in the words of the American secret services, whenever they are drilling, I saw a bird, a little bird. I coaxed it in with a piece of bread, and then I squashed that poor bird's head. One thing to remember is that globalization does not want anyone having the title British on their passport. They want everyone as global citizens. They want everyone the same. Who's ever heard of the term liberal homogeny? I'll say that again, liberal homogeny. That's a place worldwide. That's a place from within this envisaged global dispensation, in where that they think that they can change every single country into a carbon copy of the other. Well, you know, the one thing that stands against that is nationalism. The one thing that stands against that is one's pride in his country. The one thing that stands against that is love of country, love of family, love of community, a great and deep respect in terms of where it is that you grew up, how that it was that you grew up, and who that it is that you grew up around. See, liberal homogeny only seeks to remove every single part of that. Are there some things about globalization which is good? Well, absolutely, there are. You know, there are. But you see, when it's been purchased into place, when it's been hoodwinked into place, when it's been manipulated into place, nothing good that has ever been manipulated into place, or nothing that has ever been manipulated into place, well, nothing good has ever come out of it. And if I'm wrong, come and challenge me for saying that. Let's have a look at something that we've uncovered. And this is just only scratching the surface. This is only scratching the surface. So, okay, we're talking about the World Economic Forum. We're showing you a video, and let's play that video again.
Northern Ireland was always close to my heart. And I'm very proud of having been the first person who succeeded to bring for a very informal, I would say nearly secret meeting, all the conflict parties in Northern Ireland together over 20 years ago.
Sorry about that. I was just taking a little drink for my throat, the dry throat. So people, again, there's Klaus Schwab, World Economic Forum, the man that says that he's manipulated into place, that they've groomed leaders to be put in charge of your governments right around the Western world, that some of these governments are funding into place a cultural war here in Northern Ireland in which would change what it is that we believe in, everything that we've ever believed in, everything that we've ever stood for. It would change the face of the United Kingdom. It seeks to keep us separated from the United Kingdom. It seeks to put a border in the North Channel. It will not listen. It doesn't matter that we are being treated like second-class citizens. It doesn't even matter that we won that election, that we have the democratic right to leave on the same basis the EU as the rest of the United Kingdom. It doesn't matter that we form part of that 17.4 plus million people. You see, globalization, they said no, and Northern Ireland can't leave on the same basis as the rest of the United Kingdom. You tell me that's right, and I'll tell you that I will never, ever subscribe to globalization that wants to remove my rights whilst bringing newcomers in here and giving them a hierarchy of rights over me. This is my country. This is your country. This is where you were born. This is where you people, we people, have ownership of this land. Not globalists. It isn't the politicians who agree to give this land away. This is our land. We were born here, and by birthright, we own it, not them. Let's look at a few things, and then we'll be coming to your close. And again, I'm going to ask that if you can help us, people, if you can help us do this research, bring these things to light, stand up and say these things. If you can put wind in our sails to do this, well, we will do it on your behalf any day of the week. And why? Because we care, because we will not swap what is passion for some kind of globalist glory and a place on the world stage. So looking at something else, bear with me. So what we've learned is that at the World Economic Forum claimed through Klaus Schwab there that he was the first person to bring people together way back prior to the peace process. And, you know, we've learned also that Klaus has manipulated, groomed and put leaders in place in different countries. And he's not behind the back door whenever he comes and he tells you this. And this is quite open. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is clear. This is what these people are doing right now. And they have become so blatant that they don't care now. It's out, and they're letting people know that you really don't live in a democracy, that them people are manipulating everything, and they have plenty of money in order to do it. I mean, the world's billionaires have come together every year in a place called Davos, and what they do is they're working out a way of in which that if you listen to their words, what do they say? Welcome to 2030. You will own nothing. Your life will be an open book, and you couldn't be happier. You see, and then in the south at the minute, isn't there a property bill going through the Dáil at the minute, or it's already through, in where that the state has the authority to go and take houses off people for the greater good. You know, if there wasn't enough houses for the people in the country, they could throw an old lady out of her house and put her in a small apartment and fill that house full of newcomers. You know, this is what's happening, people. This is what's happening. This is globalization. Who gives those people the right to do that in your country, in my country, in the United Kingdom? The people didn't agree to this. The people definitely didn't agree to this. And let me show you what they're about to do here. And this is the biggest swindle that I have ever seen. You know, once that you see these things, I mean, I've been involved in property in my day, and you know, I can see these things a mile away. I know how the system works in terms of mortgaging, remortgaging, buying property, renting property, doing whatever it is that you need to do with property. So what I'm going to do here is that I want to now look at something, and I want to show you something. Now, we're only going to touch on this. We're going to scratch this surface because what we want to do is that we want to make a second part of what it is that we're doing here this evening. And this second part, well, if the first part was informative, the second part is specifically going to focus on the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. And we're going to specifically, in Northern Ireland, focus on one particular person who has came from the Klaus Schwab World Economic Forum School of Young Global Leaders. Now, who's in that number? Leo Varadkar. He came up through the Klaus Schwab School of World Economic Forum to be put in place in Ireland, which subverts the inalienable rights of the people of Ireland. It says in their constitution, basically. It says, or their, what is it they call it? I'll say their constitution. What does it say? It talks about the right of the Irish people to be sovereign and have ownership of their land. That's in the Irish Republic. But right now, Ireland has been given away hook, line and sinker to the EU. And who facilitated it? Well, your Leo Varadkars of this world. Now, let me just show you what they're about to do in Northern Ireland. And let me tell you where this trajectory goes and where it leads, where it ends up. And why are your politicians not telling you about this? Why are your politicians not highlighting this? And these young leaders that we spoke about earlier, who think that they're being groomed and they're being taken to places in where that it's telling them that they're the future, that they're the leaders of the future. These kids haven't lived life. These people, they think that it's a big smiley event. They think that a few selfies and a big smile makes them leaders. When the truth be told, they're being manipulated by more sinister people, and they're being purchased into place by forces which are much darker than anyone could ever imagine. So here in Northern Ireland, before I pop this picture up, you see, we have, and I'm going to quote, we have the biggest housing authority in Europe. That housing authority being the housing executive. Now, there has been a rundown of the housing executive properties over quite a number of years here in Northern Ireland. And I remember quite a number of years ago where Nelson McCausland would have been highlighting things in up around the Ballysillan area, Tynedale area, in where that a lot of these housing executive properties, they had mold on the insides because they were single skin. And that is my area of expertise in terms of what it is that I do in terms of building. Where I have the expertise, I have machines which can tell where the dampness is coming from, can highlight the extent of the dampness, and I have the qualifications to put in remedies for such dampness to be cured. So I remember offering Nelson McCausland way back that I would offer myself for nothing to go and to do some surveys on some of these properties and to write a report and to tell Nelson what the cause of these problems were and outlining the course of remedy that should be taken in order to rectify the problems from within these houses. And I remember Nelson McCausland, DUP fame, telling me, well, John, thank you very much for offering that, but we've already had the surveys. We already know the cause. We already know how to cure this. He says, but the money isn't being offered in order to cure these problems. Now, I can tell you right now that some of the mold that was growing is hazardous to people's health. And yet the money wasn't forthcoming to rectify those problems. So people were being permitted from within loyalist estates, unionist estates to live in squalor, which was absolutely and totally detrimental to their health. Now, there was huge underinvestment in the Greater Shankill area, in the Lower Newtownards area, in the Village area, in the Sandy Row area. There was huge underinvestment in all of these areas for many, many years. And, you know, some would say this was a form of social engineering that was going on. I mean, you just have to take a look at the Shankill, and you just have to take a look at the wastelands on the Shankill. Whenever there's much need for housing, well, there's so many wastelands in where housing could be built, but it isn't, and it hasn't been built on. And now what we have is that we have now, you see, I'm going to use this terminology. I'll use two terms. You see, order out of chaos. And you see, the housing crisis is chaotic. Remember what I just said there, order out of chaos. And the housing crisis is chaotic. And you know, sometimes we have problems, and remember these words. And then there are reactions to these problems in where the communities are crying out, and then there's solutions being offered to these problems. But you know, it takes a deep delve into these solutions that are forthcoming to understand that they're not all what is being offered. Let me show you what we've learned. Let me show you what we've seen. And we're going to do a full show on this. Now, I often wonder, for doing this type of exposure, these exposés, for being on the money, for producing evidence in a way that no one can actually counteract, through being conclusive, I often wonder, will we soon not have a platform here on social media? Because we've seen this happen before when people have been telling the truth. What was it that Orwell said? That telling the truth in times of universal deceit will be a revolutionary act. Well, you see, that makes us revolutionaries to expose these things. Let me show you what we've found. I'm going to pop up a picture and I'm going to ask the question. So, what you're seeing there is the World Economic Forum again. And what you're seeing on the World Economic Forum's actual website is a link to the Northern Ireland Housing Executive. And it says here, just look, that's exactly how that it is on the World Economic Forum's website. Now ask yourself a question. An organization which is based in Davos, which has the world's billionaires coming to it, who are making all sorts of policies, who are grooming world leaders, who are forming great resets, who are telling you that you welcome to 2030 and you will owe nothing. Your life will be an open book and you wouldn't be happier. What is the World Economic Forum doing with the Northern Ireland Housing Executive on its website? I'm taking a drink there for to wet my whistle. Now, okay, so I'm going to pop that down for a moment or two, and I'm nearly finished, because that is the teaser to where that it is that we'll be going on the very next stream. Suffice to say that last October, whilst listening to a radio, and this is how long that I have this in my mind, I heard of a lady who was being brought in, you know, one of these Cape Crusaders that was being brought in to transform the Northern Ireland Housing Executive. And whenever I went and I done some research on this lady, well, I learned that she is, she's like Leo Varadkar. She's like Justin Trudeau. She's like so many other of these countless global leaders attached to the World Economic Forum. Now, this lady that is coming in to transform the housing executive, what we learn is that she said last October, whenever I heard it and whenever I started to look at who this lady was, she said that a lot of people will agree with this, but let me tell you what it is that I see, because of the knowledge now that we have of what these people want to do with property rights and what we see actually happening in Southern Ireland right now, is that this lady is going to borrow on the strength of the housing executive stock to rectify the years of underinvestment in housing executive stock right across Northern Ireland. I mean, there's one quote in where that they reckon that it's going to cost 9 billion plus. So what they're going to do is they're going to remortgage the housing executive stock. They're going to borrow on the strength of the housing executive ownership book. Now, remember one thing. Who does the housing executive belong to? Well, it doesn't belong to your politicians. It doesn't belong to the British government. It doesn't belong to the World Economic Forum. It doesn't belong to the EU. It doesn't belong to the Irish government. The housing executive belongs to the people as a collective. The housing executive is there to ensure that people from Northern Ireland could have a house. That's what it's been there for. Yes, there has been that investment that I spoke about, the type of underinvestment that whenever I wanted to help Nelson McCausland, well, he told me that there was an unwillingness to put the money into the properties to rectify them when they need it rectified, and whilst that they allowed British Unionists, Protestant Unionists and Loyalists to live in these places, which could have been detrimental to their health. Well, now all of a sudden they're going to borrow money and they're going to upgrade these houses. Now, that's a good thing. Let me just tell you this. But this is what I'm saying. You see, whenever that we have, and I'm going to use this term, and I don't care if the libel courts want to come for me because I have the evidence of this. We have it clipped. We have other people has the same as what I have. Even if my digital devices was taken away, we still have this. That here we have one of these global leaders who came from the World Economic Forum, who has been involved in countless other things to which we've looked into. And believe me, you haven't seen anything yet if you think that this housing executive property takeover is something to go by. Well, this lady's coming in to borrow money on the strength of the housing executive houses. And then I ask, is this the slippery slope? Is this the road to selling off the family silver? Is this the road to privatizing the housing executive stock? Is this the road to mortgaging this stock in a way that the public absolutely own nothing here in Northern Ireland? Welcome to 2030, they said. You'll own nothing. Your life will be an open book. You don't even own the country. Do you own your birthright? Do you own your Britishness? Is this where we're headed as a result of this? Here's another terminology for you. This corporate takeover bid by many, many, many proxies. People coming soon to restore what it is that we found with reference to this global leader who has been involved in all sorts of things. We've done a bit of a trail on this person, and some of the things that we let you hear this person say. And it doesn't matter why these things are removed, because we've heard other people that do the same thing as we do, and where that they've said, well, you know, we seen it, we went back for it, we highlighted it, and it's away, it's removed. But like Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin were accused just a few days ago of removing lots and lots and lots of their own material so that people couldn't say that they support Russia. And this is what the commentators are saying. This is what's in the media. So that people couldn't say that they never supported the EU until there was Brexit on the cards. You know, these people are so wishy-washy in their beliefs What type of beliefs does the current Sinn Féin actually have? In fact, are there some within our own community who are exactly the same? Are they all seeking to get their feet under this globalist table? Are they all jostling for position in this, I'm going to say, this cash bonanza, this status giveaway, which is on offer if you put your feet under this corporate takeover bid by many, many, many proxies? Do some of our own leaders want to become those proxies? Are some of our own leaders already those proxies? Well, there we go. That's what we came to speak about this evening. Those are areas, they're dangerous areas to speak about. And some people don't know what I'm saying when I say that. You know, there are a lot of expose. There is a lot of expose in what I've just said there, what I've just shown. You know, leaders should be chosen. Leaders should be chosen by the people. Leaders should be chosen based on their merits. Leaders lead. Leaders aren't manipulated into place. Leaders aren't given a leg up into place. Leaders don't come into place as a result of, you know, some people looking a legacy for themselves. Leaders emerge from communities. Leaders should never be curtailed. Leadership, real leadership that you could trust on, leadership that you could rely on, comes from the grassroots upwards and has demonstrated time and time again that leadership is for the people to which they claim to represent. You see, right now, how many of our politicians have their family members working for them, have their family members sucking from this trough, having their snouts in this trough also? How many people? A lot of people from within our community know the answer to that. People, that's the end of where we need to be this evening. Coming soon to Restore is Northern Ireland Housing Executive. Why is this name on the World Economic Forum website? Why do they have a link to the Northern Ireland Housing Executive? What do the World Economic Forum have planned for the Northern Ireland Housing Executive? Is this a shift of ownership by borrowing money on the strength of these houses? Will globalists then end up owning the Northern Ireland Housing Executive on the stock? That's just a question. Why aren't our politicians pointing these things out? One more clip before that we close. The funding was announced at the IFI's recent board meeting in Rathmullen, County Donegal. The chairman took the opportunity to thank the international donors to the fund, the European Union, the British and Irish government, as well as the government of the United States of America, as well as the totalitarians, now that's my bit that I'm adding, in Canada, Australia, and New Zealand for their support. If we're being funded by totalitarians, what is it that they expect us to be? That's just a question. Only you know the answer. People, thanks very much for coming along to Restore this evening. It's been really, really interesting researching what it is that we're researching. It takes a long time to do this. It takes a long time to put things like this together because we have to be sure about what we're saying before that it is that we say it. Now, if I get Novichoked, or if I end up in jail, or if I end up like accused of something all of a sudden, you know, who knows? We've seen this happening before. As I said, that the type of people that we're speaking about, well, we're speaking about forces that are way more darker than you or I or anyone else could ever imagine. But you know something? Sometimes some things are worth standing up for. Sometimes corruption is worth exposing. I remember a conversation that I had with Edwin Poots, and this one is for everyone. Not a lot of people know this, but there was one man that heard this for himself. John Ross will bear testament to this very fact. I remember at a meeting with a high-ranking DUP member, I remember the first thing that DUP member said to me. Now, this is whenever we were challenging the DUP on what was about to happen with reference to the New Decade, New Deal. And I remember the first words that this man said to me were these words: I believe that Billy Wright was murdered. And I remember saying to that man when we came out of that meeting, I said, why did he say that to me? You know, was he telling me not to be poking too far? Was he telling me that I'm dealing and delving and digging into forces that would have me murdered? Is this what this man was saying? Because there was no other reason as to why this man would actually say this to me. Well, I remember my response, not right away, but at a later stage. I remember my response to this very man when I thought about it and I went back and I talked to him. I says, you know, I'm either going to succeed, I'm going to be demonized, diminished on the way, or I'm going to die trying. And I said to this individual, you believe me, whatever way, that's okay with me. And I walked away. And, you know, never to this day has that man ever met me again. Sometimes some things are worth standing up for. There's been too many people in Northern Ireland down throughout the years who's given their lives, who has offered themselves to serve and protect the British Unionist people of Northern Ireland, for others to walk over the very graves that those people lie in. Thanks very much for coming along. Thank you. Playing us out with a patriotic song. And then what we'll do is that we'll remind you once more with the little video that we played at the start, in where that you hear Tony Blair actually talking about Brexit, and he's talking about reversing Brexit. And, you know, we're now close to the circumstances in where that I believe that they are moving to remove that very Brexit from each and every person that voted for Brexit right around the United Kingdom. So here we go with a little patriotic song. I'm just looking for a song that'll maybe highlight what it was that we're speaking about. Just bear with me. I'm just looking down our list here. Haven't got this but planned, but it's worth doing. It's worth doing. Oh, here's one for you. How can we protect you in this crazy world? How can I protect you in this crazy world? Because a crazy world is what it is, people. It's a very, very crazy world. Are they about to try to steal your housing executive from before right onto your nose? Are the people that want to destroy our country, are they going to get their hands on the money, this money tree, which they can continue taking from until the point in where that there's more money borrowed in those houses than they're actually worth, and they're passed over the ownership of those houses to the global cabal? Who knows? How can I protect you in this crazy world? Thanks very much for listening, and we'll see you all again very, very soon. Don't forget, if you can help by way of PayPal, click on the PayPal link and put a few pound in for us. Takes a lot of time to do these type of things, and we will not shirk from our responsibilities in order to tell the truth in times of universal deceit. Thanks very much for coming along.
How can I protect you in this crazy world? It's alright, yeah, it's alright. I have fallen down
very proud of having been the first person who succeeded to bring, for a very informal, I would say nearly secret meeting, all the conflict parties in Northern Ireland together over 20 years ago. When I mention now names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. Mm-hmm. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau, and I know that half of this cabinet, or even more half of this cabinet, are for our actually young global leaders of the world.
It's my own desire. It's my own remorse. Help me to decide. Help me make the most of freedom and of pleasure. Nothing ever lasts forever. Everybody wants to go.
Of admiration I actually have for China. Because their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say we need to go green as fast as we need to start investing in solar. I mean, there is a flexibility that I know Stephen Harper must dream about, of having a dictatorship that he could do everything he wanted, that I find quite interesting.
June 2016, we had the referendum, and that expressed the will of the people, but the will of the people isn't something fixed or unchangeable. If the circumstances change, the will can change, the views can change. We've got the right to rethink. It's not that we have to rethink, but we've got the right to rethink if we want to. So when we see this new relationship, and I think the new relationship will be one in which Britain is either trying to keep very close to Europe, in which case we'll have to obey Europe's rules, but we'll have lost our seat at the table of decision-making, or alternatively, it'll be very far from Europe, in which case the damage to Britain economically will be quite significant. I think when people see this new relationship, they're going to ask themselves again the question, well, is this really worth it? In many ways, Europe's become a kind of lightning rod for a whole lot of anxieties and concerns that people have. How people's worry, which is very real, that they've lost control over their own lives, lost it culturally through forces of immigration, lost it economically through forces of globalization, and Brexit is merely part of that movement in the West that's a big reaction against this process of globalization.
Never needed one headline while leaving. Everybody wants
We didn't join Europe to be swallowed up in some bureaucratic conglomerate where it's Euro this and Euro that, and forget about being British. We're British, and we're proud of it. Proud of our traditions, proud of our national character.